I'm taking care of the garden. Today we are playing a Stardew Valley, and I have my good friend here. Johanna Porter.
So you should be good.
Yay! Hello,
Huzzah.
friends.
Screaming cat.
Screaming cats. Alright.
You may not want to go that far. Let's see.
How is it now?
Jesus, cat.
To me. Okay.
Oh, is that Mary or Pippin?
Oh, it was Bilbo.
Bilbo.
Screaming Bilbo.
Screaming into the void. All good. Okay.
Oh, thank you, friends.
Alright, thank you, friends. Okay. We're going to briefly switch over to cocktail cam.
It's important. It's just drink and think.
It's true. So we're going to switch over to cocktail cam, where Ethan is going to show us how to make a cocktail. Yes. Alright. So switching to cocktail cam. And our guest star, Bilbo.
Bilbo is the guest star.
Screaming into the void.
And by guest star, I mean
Hello,
actual star.
everyone. We will briefly move this aside for cat time. So, our cocktail today, we will be doing something a little bit different than we did in our previous stream where we made 4 classic cocktails at home. This is another classic cocktail. I am actually pulling from the Sasha Petrosky's Regarding Cocktails. Fantastic book. Pick yourself up a copy if you're at all interested in cocktail science. It is a beautifully rendered book. Everything, all the iconography you see there, each of those represents a different additions. So it would be things like lime juice, simple syrup, etc. Every cocktail is rendered that way. Absolutely love it. The Daiquiri is my go-to. I need to judge a bar. How good is a bar? So I can walk in, I can order a Daiquiri, and if they reach for a blender, I have them make something else or I leave. Daiquiris are not meant to be blended drinks. Anyone who says that it is has no idea what they're talking about, and it is a farce. Daiquiris should never be blended. A good daiquiri should be 3 ingredients. Fresh lime juice, if you can get a hold of it. I happen to have some key lime juice, which is bottled. It's a little more tart than your standard lime, so I'm going to cut back just a hair on the lime. This calls for 7/8, but it's to taste. So I'm going to probably go to about half an ounce, see how it tastes. If I want a little more, I can add a little more. I'm going to then balance that 3/4 ounce of simple syrup, and I may go 1 to 1. I tend to make my simple syrup and put it into a fantastic mayo bottle because it is very confusing to people to see the word mayo and then think sugar. Oh yeah, game noises are probably still coming through. Game noises and honey are on the same channel. Is the issue. Yep. And then 2 ounces, of course, of a white rum. I myself prefer Diplomatico. It's an aged white rum, so it is still clear. However, it is aged, so there's an oak flavor here that may not exist in other light rums. It's just my personal preference. So, real quick, I've got my standard cocktail shaker. And I already have 2 ice cubes in here, but I have not cracked one of them, so I will do so now. And again, you just need a nice heavy-duty bar spoon. A couple good whacks. And that will crack apart into some nice pieces. Some of them will go everywhere. Nature of the beast. Set that here on my cork. And then I'm done with the bar spoon. I just needed it for that initial breaking of the ice cubes. Rather not get my look all wet. So, we'll take our simple syrup, since that's our least expensive ingredient. And you always want to do least expensive first, because that way if you mess up a proportion and you need to dump it, you're dumping out much less expensive ingredients, much less loss. Whether you're in a home bar or a restaurant bar, same idea. So 3/4 ounce simple syrup. The reason I'm starting with simple syrup is it is ridiculously cheap because it is 1 part sugar to 1 part water. There really does not get to be a much cheaper ingredient than that. Give my lime juice a quick little shake just to get everything stirred back up. Like I said, it calls for 7/8 ounce. Because key lime juice is very tart, I'm going to start with a 1/2 ounce, and if it decides it needs more, I'll add a little more. That's a little heavy, 1/2 ounce, so we'll call that, I don't know, 5/8. And then our last ingredient is our rum. So, grab our rum, a nice 2-ounce pour of that. into the shaker. And then the fun part. I will give a warning now to all headphones users. This will be loud. And let that settle for a moment. Very quickly, I will.
You'll be right back.
How's your farming going, DP?
Gather my.
It's not going right now because I am being an assistant on Facecam and standing out of the way.
Nice chilled coupe glass.
And then I will be right back.
Now, if your bartender at your local bar does this, probably not great. But since this is a home bar, yeah, that has a good balance to it. It's definitely a little more tart than most daiquiris would be. That's not a bad thing. It's really a personal preference. And the nice part with a strainer like this, I'm not really worried about a clear presentation. It's not a clear beverage, so if I get a little bit of ice in there, it's not going to hurt anything. We just want to make sure we get every drop of cocktail we can. And again, this is our daiquiri using primarily the spec from Regarding Cocktails. So to read directly from the book, a perfect daiquiri is a window into the technique and talent needed to make any shaken drink. For this reason, it is the test drink for anyone who wants to see what a bar or a bartender is all about. Sasha often made his daiquiris with 7/8 of an ounce or 26 milliliters of lime juice because depending on the lime, a full ounce could make it a little too tart. That's why I cut back on my spec because I'm using key limes, they're more tart. That moment really drove home the importance of tasting every drink, especially the first drink of the night. Because if you make the drink right, the ingredients, and even the simplest of drinks, 3 whole ingredients here, will not always guarantee the same results. Sasha's pursuit of quality was relentless. If there was a problem with one of the drinks in a round, the whole round would be thrown out and begin again. Every drink had to be perfect, and they all went out together. What mattered always was quietly and unobtrusively doing our part, not for applause or personal gain, but simply because it was the right way to do things. So, your daiquiri should never be overly green, but it should be somewhat green. Now, key limes don't have as green of a juice as a standard lime, but there is still a light green cast. And on balance, this one's a little tart. I could almost have done a little more sweet, but for our personal preference, it works. And so if what you like is in the glass, you've done something right. With that being said, I will turn you back over to the Dr.unk Phytologist and her lovely guest, and you may talk about bees.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you from my local bartender, Ethan Lapham. He will be around.
Bartenders.
Yay. And maybe in the chat or oot in a boot. But there's your drink for today's Drink and Think.
My drink for today's drink, I think, is a cranberry cider.
Ooh.
Because I was out of mead.
That is also fun. So we're going to switch back to Game Cam. Huzzah.
So while we were making a cocktail, I went fishing.
You went fishing? That's exciting.
I went fishing. And foraging. I found some flowers.
Thank you very much.
I've sold them.
Very good. Alrighty. Oop. Do I need to plant more seeds? I will plant the seeds. I will do this.
Do you
There, I have some. I did it. I helped.
want to plant all of your seeds?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I only have 4 more. Thank you, ma'am.
You will need to water them because I have only 4 energy left.
I will do this. Yes, either?
So we're currently planting parsnips in this game,
Yes.
and whatever we find on the ground.
Note to everyone, be sure to refrigerate your simple syrup.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Alright, I will go to do the sleep. And then we will talk about the topic for today.
DP's tucked into bed. It's very
true.
cute.
Yes, very nice.
Zoom in money. I like making money in this game.
All right, we've been
So it's
Hmm?
it's springtime in this game, DP. We should plant some plants or flowers.
Yes, we should. We should do these
And
things.
it's a rainy day.
Yes, so that means we can go and get seeds. So everyone, we're playing Stardew Valley, if you are not familiar with it. There you go.
As I like to call it, my friends' lives or former lives simulators.
Yes, this is the DP Nostalgia Simulator. Fortunately, we have a rainy day, so we don't have to do a whole...
Water the plants?
Yeah, water the plants, indeed.
I made us a chest to put stuff in as well.
Oh, very good. So today, for our topic, besides daiquiris, is talking about pollinators and things that pollinate plants. So, I like
butterflies pollinate plants.
Butterflies pollinate plants. So, maybe we should list the things that pollinate plants. So, number 1 is...
I presume bees and wasps and moths.
All of those, yes.
Butterflies.
And butterflies.
And probably other things I'm not remembering.
Yes. Ooh, I found a geode. Oh boy.
Ooh.
Humans can do this, yes. Although they tend to not be a major pollinator. Other mammals.
True.
Other mammals. Animals in general, although the animals that tend to be pollinators tend to be insects. So beetles and flies and gnats. Action says aliens. That might be true. Although I don't have a lot of evidence.
Not here.
Maybe not here.
But elsewhere, sure, possible.
Yes. I will say some of the major things that are used for pollination are actually wind.
Yes.
And water. So, action, that's what you think. Well, as I said, I'm still gathering data. I've got an open mind. I have an open mind. But, for example, many trees are wind pollinated. Like,
do you know if you shake the tree, you sometimes can get a seed?
How do I shake this tree?
You right click.
Oh, I didn't even know I could shake trees. Well, that's all the thing I'm gonna do now. Do nothing but shaking trees, man.
I mean, that's how you make money, right?
Yeah. So, the various trees we have on this farm, such as pine trees, these are all wind-pollinated trees, by the way.
There are 4 kinds of trees on our farm, DP.
There are 4 kinds.
Mm-hmm. There's
I see maples,
maple
I see oaks,
trees, oak trees,
yes,
pine trees, and mahogany trees have been added to the game.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well then, isn't that fancy?
They might not be growing on the farm right now, but they do exist.
Okay, that's fancy time. I'm pretty sure mahogany are also wind pollinated, although I would have to double check.
I just know that in this game, when you chop down a mahogany tree, you get hardwood.
Yes. Mahogany is a hardwood. It's true.
Compared to oak and maple.
Yes. Well, maple, so there are hard maples, but most of them are soft. Maples.
I was going to go get seeds, and I remembered it's Wednesdays and Pierre's was closed.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm double checking to see if the mahogany... how mahogany is pollinated. I'm double checking because I don't want to sound like an idiot.
I believe it's a tree. Something pollinates it.
Let's see. So mahogany is, they are So it's a flowering plant. Most of the plants that we see are flowering plants, generally speaking. And so it is additional facts. Okay, so they do not have hermaphroditic flowers. They have both male and female flowers that grow on the same tree. And they are pollinated by moths and bees.
I love bees. I really do.
Yes.
And not just like honeybees, like all kinds of bees are interesting.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. Well, especially because honeybees are in the minority when it comes to bees.
And they're not native to here.
No, they are not. There are actually some Native American bees, but they are from South America.
Yep.
And their populations have been drastically reduced because of the European honeybee, because the European honeybee is invasive.
It is, and that's what most beekeepers use.
Yep.
Europeans are Russians, or
Yes.
Russian honeybees.
Yes, because they are very aggressive in comparison.
And they're good at doing pollinating.
Yes, it's true. Well, and also most bees are, so I think there's like over, like in the Americas alone, there's like over 200 different species of...
Correct. It's a lot of bees.
Yeah, of bees.
So many.
So many bees. Most of them are solitary. And very small, which is one of the reasons we don't know a lot about them. And I listened to a podcast earlier today. So in defense of plants, if you want to go deep down the nerd rabbit hole when it comes to plants, that is a blog and a podcast that you should check out, done by Matt Cadeas. Actually, I think it's Dr. Cadeas now. I think he just finished his PhD and recently published a book, as well as some other stuff. But he's been doing that blog for, oh boy, like 6 to 8 years now, something like that. And has been doing the podcast for like 4. I mean, he's almost at like episode 300 or something like that, like something crazy. But I was listening to episode 276 called "A Native Bee-Nanza" earlier today.
It's a great name for an episode.
It really is. And he was interviewing Heather Holm, who has written several books on native bees and bees in general, and how to turn your yard and garden into a pollinator-friendly place. Particularly for the Midwest, but also sort of in general kind of things, because she is from Minnesota, which I learned today, which is where I live. So that's kind of exciting.
It's very cold in Minnesota, but not as cold as it is here right now, and that's terrifying to me.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But she had a lot of really great tips for that sort of stuff, and talking about identifying different kinds of bees. As she says, most of them are small, most of them are native, most of them are solitary, most of them are specialists, which means that there are only certain species of plants that they pollinate, which means that they are dependent upon those plants, and those plants are dependent upon them. Now, one of my favorite kinds of bees are bumblebees.
Bumblebees are delightful.
Yes. They are generalists, though.
They are.
So they will pollinate up to like 100 different species of plants or something like that. Like, not picky at all. And I learned...
There's like 22 different kinds on the East Coast, I think.
Nice.
And like over 30 from the Rocky Mountains itself, which are different species of bumbles.
Gotta love you some bumbles.
So cool. I'm gonna keep the leeks of the horseradish and sell land.
Okay. So I think out of the... So I also learned today that bumblebees, like a queen bumble, when she emerges, will put her first hive sometimes in an abandoned mouse burrow.
Okay,
Quite
that makes
often.
sense.
Yeah. and that they're attracted to. It's because usually like little mice will line their burrows with nice fluffy stuff, and so they like the fluffy stuff. And so apparently Heather had done like an experiment where she had asked her neighbors to give her like bedding and old mouse burrow fluffy stuff, which she said her neighbors have stopped wondering about her years ago.
I mean, that's a scientific term.
Yeah. And so because of that, she did an experiment where she tried like a little terracotta pot and buried it upside down in the ground, but then had like the drainage hole up and put the fluffy stuff on the inside to see if she could get a bumblebee queen to come in. And then she's like, I didn't see anybody. And then it's like, wait, I think I've accidentally created a bumblebee sink. Because once they go in the hole,
they can't get out.
They can't get out. So she put in a tiny little ladder in the hole. And 3 queens crawled out immediately. It's like,
wow.
Okay, well, that wasn't my best experiment ever. But there is one that made her home in there. And started to have babies. And so she doesn't, that was more for an experiment. She doesn't recommend making these little bumblebee homes. But it was an interesting sort of thing to be like, yes, they do indeed. They are attracted indeed to the mouse smell, right? To make their new little house, which I thought was very fascinating.
Ugh.
So I guess that's another thing that we should talk about, because I know I've seen Bumblebee Timeshare, indeed. So I've seen a lot of like bee homes.
Mm-hmm. They'll nest in anything.
Yes. But, for example, they would have these where, they would make a, what do I want to say?
Hive?
Yes. Well, you see these bee hotels?
I have seen the bee hotels.
Mm-hmm. It was all the rage for a little while.
I don't know how practical the bee hotels are.
Yeah, we've learned they're actually not the best thing.
They're small.
One that it's not so much that they're small. One that is part of it. But another problem is that, as I said, most bees are solitary, right? So when you have a bee hotel where they're all packed in like that, they become a target for predators, as well as disease spreads more quickly.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Right. And so the thing is you can have a bee hotel, but you need to make sure to like clean it regularly and maintain it. And a lot of people like forget or don't have time or whatever. So a better thing to do is what they've been sort of terming as messy gardening. So what you do is, if you can, most people plant the same kinds of plants in their garden because that's what they get at the store. And that's because they're cheap and everyone raises the same kind at like in these big horticulture kind of places. What you want to try to do is find native plants as best you can, and usually there are local garden clubs or websites or the local like extension office, DNR, whatever. And they usually have a bunch of seeds either for free or very cheap. So what you want to do is plant a variety of things. Hi there! Hello! You want to plant a variety of things, number one. So that you have something blooming all the time to provide food for your pollinators, your bees, but also, you know, your butterflies and your moths and your flies and your, you know, all your other fun, nice friends. And then what you want to do is when you're done, I know a lot of people think sort of aesthetically pleasing, where it's like, okay, my garden is done. I need to cut up all of the old stuff. I need to like burn it and throw it away, right? Resist the urge. Resist the urge to do this. Just leave the stems there. Leave the old stems, leave the old leaves, leave it all there. Don't do anything with it. The reason is that many bees will take those stems from your old flowers or your old plants and will dig a little and will gnaw a little hole, and they will overwinter in those stems. They will hibernate in those.
Okay.
So the best thing to do is what we call a messy garden, right? Just leave it, right? Don't make it look perfect. Don't burn it. Don't do anything with it, right?
Do we still weed our garden, DP?
You can weed it, but after the garden's like kaput, just leave it alone, right? Just leave it there, and then in the next spring, then you can mulch it up, because by then the bees should have woken up and left at that point. Does that make
This
sense?
makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the store
Yes.
right now in this game, and I'm looking at things we can buy.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot buy trees yet, but we can buy some flowers or some other vegetables.
Yes.
Would you prefer flowers or vegetables?
I say let us start with some flowers.
Okay. Tulips it is.
Sounds good. Yeah. And so there are also certain flowers which, so what we call, the term is, ecological service. So there are certain flowers which have been grown that are aesthetically pleasing to humans, but are absolutely useless.
Sounds like a lot of things.
Yes. Roses is number one. I hate roses and everything
I also
about
hate
them.
roses. Give
all-
me a good batch of wildflowers any day of the week.
Yes. Also, anything that is a double bloom something, right? Because a double bloom is a mutant, most likely. And a lot of double bloom things no longer have any of the flower sexual organs anymore, because they are a mutant that makes petals instead of, like, stamens and, like, stigmas anymore. So they also don't make nectar. So they look pretty, but do nothing. Also, a lot of double roses, the only thing that can pollinate them are bumblebees. Because bumblebees are the only ones strong enough to be able to open up the flower to get to the nectar inside. So, don't plant those. They're bad. Instead, what's even more useful is, some other sort of like wildflower. Milkweeds are great. Hollyhocks are great. Golden Alexanders are great, especially ones that have a lot of... So Golden Alexanders have a lot of pollen, so it's not just nectar that bees are after. All of their protein comes from pollen, actually. And sometimes is even more important, especially early in the spring when you're trying to establish a hive and have babies. So anything that has a lot of pollen is super great.
Because bees use pollen for a variety of different things.
Yes, they do. They do. Okay, I'm actually looking. Okay, I haven't checked the chat in a while. Let's see.
Well, Air's making terrible puns.
Oh, okay.
I've just decided to ignore them.
Okay. Hi, Air. Let's see.
And then Action is referring to our D&D game, which was, yes, doubly offensive.
Only one harvest, then big plants. She's size queen. Say a D&D involving roses created by wizards was doubly offensive. It was. I was vibrating over there, just like, but I'm like, oh well. I'm not gonna get on my soapbox today because I love my friend and he worked very hard on this encounter.
I mean, to be fair, you're playing a character in this game where you don't have to care about the plants. Though it's very hard to turn off.
It's true. It is true. It is very hard to turn off. I actually have had that used against me during our D&D games because one of our friends is like, your character doesn't know anything about plants. And so then he would on purpose say things that were incorrect just to make me angry, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Sounds familiar. I just talk about bees in my D&D games.
Yes.
I like to use them in a weird way. Because I like to think, from my time spending with bees, the bees have intuitions about people.
I could see this.
Which,
bees are very, very intelligent, but they are collectively intelligent, which is the weird part, because then it's they know things that you don't think they should know. Because there was a thought that there were certain things that they got from, like pheromones and this, that, and the other, and I am almost exhausted. And how did I do this? Whoops.
Bees are... I didn't used to like bees at all. And I've found that they have quickly become one of my favorite insects. One, and two, that they are the most chill insect.
Yes.
They're so chill.
They are very chill, yeah.
Except when they're irritated. And when people think of bees, most of the time I think of wasps.
Yes.
Wasps have no chill.
No. Wasps are the no chill of the bee.
Wasps are good for keeping the ecosystem running, for food, for other things. That's about it.
Yes. There are some wasps, so there are certain types of fruits.
Some can pollinate.
Yes. Yes. There are.
Some are just food.
Some are just food. There are also predators of other things, because there are plenty of parasitic wasps.
Yes.
Which help keep, as you said, the ecosystem in check in different ways.
However, if there is a thing that you may think is a bee buzzing on your beverage when you're outside in the summer, it's probably a wasp.
It's most likely a wasp, yes.
Honeybees, when they land on you, will just kind of chill, most likely, unless they feel threatened. And they'll only sting if they really feel like they have no other choice, because if a honeybee stings you, it's death.
Yes.
But honeybees can sting other insects and be completely fine. There's something about the human skin and the barb in their tail, or their stinger, I should say.
Yeah. Which is very unfortunate. A lot of native bees don't sting, if I remember correctly. As I said, they tend to be solitary and leave them alone if you leave them alone.
I'm trying to forage so I can get the hive recipe so we can get some bees on the farm.
Ooh, yes.
These bees only create
potato
wild
shoes.
honey most of the time.
What do they make?
They'll make wild honey.
Well, yes.
But if we get them near a flower, they'll make that monoculture type of honey.
Oh, okay. Yes. So these are
mono meaning one.
Yes. Mono meaning
from one source.
Yep. Well, and also I learned a new term today.
Ooh.
That honeybees are what are called eusocial.
Okay.
And eusocial.
What does eusocial mean?
Eusocial means that they are in their own hive with all of their sisters, right, and relatives. And they don't interact with other species. Versus, because kind of like what we'd said before, most bees actually don't make hives.
Yeah, they usually inhabit a hive.
Yes. Or they don't live in hives at all, they live in burrows.
We have carpenter, I think they're carpenter bees.
Yes.
In the sedimentary pond fence.
Yes.
They burrowed in. Burrowed a hole in and then burrowed in. I was like, I just leave them alone because they just zip around me and fly around me when I'm walking the dog. And they give me no harm, but I think other neighbors have tried to eradicate them in manners that are not good.
This is terrible, and I disapprove.
It's awful, and I disapprove.
I also apparently there are some species up here, and back when it gets nice and warm, from the podcast I was listening to earlier today of bees which burrow in sand. And so I might go look for them because they will emerge in the springtime.
I would like you not to look for them, but mostly so you don't accidentally get yourself stung by disturbing a nest of bees.
That's true. I would be careful.
Don't put a stick in a beehive.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay, when you're putting those bees, remember you have to get to the sticks. So put them on the end, I would say.
All right.
You could leave this one here, but I would go like this. That way you can harvest them this way.
Yeah, no, you're right. Okay.
No, just I play a lot of Stardew Valley.
No, yep, no. Whoop.
This is already watered for you. We found a chicken statue.
Oh, that's exciting. I like it.
I'm gonna just hold it here for you so you can see it.
Ooh, yes, very nice. Excellent. I should have gotten one more thing of seeds for our patch. Oh well.
There's still time. What do you want?
Nasty. Well, I got the beans, I got the potatoes, I got the cauliflower. If we wander around, we might find some wild ones and see what happens.
I do love finding wild seeds.
I plant those a lot.
My favorite kind.
Putting sticks in beehives is very rude. They do not appreciate it. Not really. They do not. The disrespect, indeed.
How dare you disturb our hive?
Yes.
But bees are super, super chill.
Yeah.
If honeybees or any kind of bee really decides that they would like to sleep in your house or your car or your shed or anything you don't want them, you should call a local beekeeper. And they will usually come and remove them for free. Or a small fee.
Yes.
But like safely remove the hive instead of trying to kill them with things that are toxic for them.
Yes. Also, another way, if you love bees and if you love pollinators and like pretty ones like butterflies and moths and stuff like that.
I love butterflies.
Don't spray your lawn.
I don't spray our lawn.
Leave the weeds. Leave the weeds because you can have lots of wildflowers and food and things. You know, because you like if you can't find a native thing or anything like that, that's fine. But just plant something, right? As long as it's not something that's going to become invasive, you know. It's like talk to your local people, but just plant some flowers, any kind of flowers, and also a bunch of them, right? Or if you don't have a lot of space, a flowering tree is really great. So like a flowering dogwood, for example, or a magnolia.
Plant apple trees.
Apple
you have to
trees.
plant 2 different kinds of apple trees, but
Yes, apple trees.
but plant apple trees, and then eventually you get apples.
Also true.
And then you can make pie. It's a great plan.
See? Because these are so it's something that we're talking about, the verticality of stuff. Yep, even a flower box is great. I mean, you can have all sorts of even an apartment with some patio plants. Just some nice big flowers.
I like to think that I like to think about flowers like I think about birdhouses, and bird seed and bird feeders.
Yep.
Just have them.
Yep. Well, and also if you like birds, if you're like, I don't really care about bees and I don't really care about bugs, but you like birds, do the exact same thing. You know why?
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Because the more
Same
different...
picture.
Same picture. Yes, apple trees are technically invasive, so...
Yes, but I like apples sometimes.
There are different cherry trees and stuff like that. There's also some which have been naturalized. And as I said, talk to your local extension office. Or look on the website. There's usually a lot of great resources there.
It's 8:20 p.m.
That will give you kind of recommendations and stuff. You don't necessarily have to have like a big botanist friend, but it's like
but if you have a botanist friend, you have a plant question, it's super helpful to have.
It is helpful to have. Mostly because they will
I have a plant question, but I will ask you later.
Okay. yeah, there are always, the big thing is a variety of plants to get a variety of pollinators, right? And as you get your variety of pollinators, what also helps, because the more different kinds of insects you attract, the more different kinds of birds you will attract. Because you see, it all starts with the plants. The plants are the foundation. And then you go up from there. And so you can actually get a lot done in a very small space. Like, I had some mint plants and some sage plants and my little itty bitty tiny house. And boy, oh boy, did I have so many animals.
Plus, here's a bonus to having the birds and the bees. You can have entertainment for your pets.
Also true. And yourself, because your pets are
And
entertained.
You want more
Ooh.
bees, Ooze? Well,
Ooh.
you could always start your own hive if you really, really, really want to go down that route.
Yes, but an easier thing is, since I know, Ooze, you're working on your yard, is plant a bunch of different kinds of plants and don't make it all grass.
Yep. And don't like treat your grass.
Don't treat your grass. Nope. Don't spray it with
Embrace
pesticides.
the weed.
Embrace the weeds. Embrace the weeds. Embrace the mess. God bless the mess. God bless this mess.
We do still say mow your yard.
Yes. Mowing is fine.
Mowing is fine.
But there is also, if you can just have a small section of it, even if it's in the back, to leave unmowed, just leave it. That's fine too, right? Like, there, don't burn it, don't spray it a whole bunch, you know. It's like
we
if
have
there's
a section.
If there's a part that you don't want to,
There's a sharp corner, but you don't feel like getting to.
Yeah, just leave it. Just leave it. Don't bother with it. Let it be all natural. Let the dandelions be there.
There's just plants. Yes, Ethan. They are just plants.
Yes. Yeah, weed is, I really kind of hate that word because weed is just a plant that a human decided they didn't like.
That's true.
Yes, it's doing the many plant. Yes, tell us of these varietals of honey.
There are several.
There are so many.
There's so many. Well, there are.
Mm-hmm.
If you can pollinate your plant,
yeah,
a bee can make honey from it.
Yes.
When bees pollinate several plants in one hive, and you harvest the honey, you get what we call wildflower honey. Mm-hmm. If they harvest one particular plant, just because either they decided to harvest that or pollinate that particular plant, or they are set up in a way that specifically forces them to do so, that is called a monoculture or varietal type of honey. My favorite honey right now is the bamboo honey, which is made from the Japanese knotweed flower. And it's a little grassy and real sweet. Almost has like a molassesy flavor. But it's not as bad as like buckwheat honey, which is, I find, a little bit more harsh. JD says that last year they learned that they do not need to plant 3 cucumber plants.
No, you only need 1. Only really need 1. All right. I'm going to go get some more seeds. What do you think we should get? What should I get?
I'm going to get some blue jazz flowers.
Ooh, yes. I will do this.
Grow some flowers.
Grow some flowers.
Because A, they'll look pretty, and B, why not?
Yeah, same with squash. Ethan says, give me orange blossom honey or give me death.
I think I have no orange blossom honey at this house. If I do, it's in a honey stick. Somewhere. Sometimes I'll be cleaning something and I'll find a pack of honey sticks and they'll be like, oh, honey sticks. And then I miss packs. And my friends.
Years. All right.
But yes, orange blossom's great.
Alright. I'm going to sell these parsnips because they're nothing special parsnips. And then we're going to get some jazz seeds. How many of these do we want to get?
You have a budget of 1732, I think.
Yes. I'll get like 5 of those. Do we want to get some kale?
Ooh, kale would be cool.
Kale. More potatoes or any of the other things, or just a bunch of like kale and jazz seeds?
Parsnips go quick.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
We'll get a bunch of those.
Because they're like, what? 20 they sell for at least 40? Something like that?
Yeah.
Hey, you know who liked kale? The Ruddies liked kale when I was a kid. Or, no, was it the guinea pigs? I don't remember. It was so long ago.
I can see the guinea pigs. The guinea pigs really like... I think one of the most delightful noises on the planet is listening to a bunch of guinea pigs eat Brussels sprouts.
You'll appreciate this, everybody. Yesterday, Dad and I decided to go at midnight to the store. Because it snowed here. And so we were going to the store at midnight. And there is a bunny convention outside the house, but they were all social distancing.
Very good.
It was very funny.
That's actually not that surprising for bunnies, because bunnies tend to, well, not get along all that great. Because they're kind of like,
I was just abused.
No, it's actually very good.
It was like a triangle of bunnies.
Ooze is getting it. Okay, so I says, nobody wants kale, let's be honest. Action Economist says he likes kale. Ethan, kale is animal food, not people food. Well, I am an animal, which people are not all animals are people, but all peoples are animals. Oh, sorry.
Yes, it's a very specific reference. Ooze about guinea pigs and Brussels sprouts. I'm sure there's a story behind it. I also am sure that story would take 3 hours.
Why do you attack me like this in my own home?
Because I think you tell stories like I tell stories in a very large circle.
It's true. It's true. I still feel very attacked, though.
Hey, Onyx, could you get off the counter?
What is it? Kale? Yeah. Is food's food. It says doctor speaks truth. It's true.
But, I think the most interesting variety of honey I have in my entire collection between the 2 houses I frequently reside in is the mint honey.
Interesting.
Which tastes like mint.
Huh. I have never had a mint honey. I love mint plants, though, because I think mints are amazing.
I'm seriously considering, if SmallCon actually happens, bringing all of my varietals of honey with me.
I'm here. I'm ready for this.
In my suitcase, I'll just have a honey suitcase.
That's also fine.
And we can have, like... A, you can take some of them from me. Because I don't need them all. And B,
fair.
Yes, avocado honey is a thing. And B, we can taste all the honeys. Yes. Avocado is really interesting, though. It's very, it's really smooth.
Okay.
Compared to some honey. It's, got a really good color, too. And it's a thicker honey. But it tastes like licorice to me.
Huh. Interesting.
And I was like, why does avocado honey taste like licorice? And so I did some research. And by research, I mean I Googled.
I mean...
Because that's how research works. And it turns out that when the outside of an avocado before it's ripe with a tree can have that anise flavor the licorice has.
Oh, okay.
Which gets picked up through the honey hive.
Yeah. Well, and also anise is is there's several different plants which have that anise sort of flavor, you know, like fennel, like star anise, you know, there's a variety of different things that will give you that same. No, Clint! Darn it.
Are you making fun of my suitcase of honey, Doc? Because it's a very true thing that has happened.
It's fine. I'm okay with it. I think this is perfectly fine and nice and fair.
But how else are supposed to people eat the honey that I'm not using? It's just sitting in my closet.
It's true. It's true.
I should make tea. Leak.
Gosh, okay. Maybe we should ask the people. Does people have any other questions about pollinators? AKA bees and friends. Bees and friends, or how plants are pollinated.
Bees and friends. Bees
and friends. Because we've talked about it in a very...
picture of a moth today, and it made me happy.
Yes, this always makes me happy. Because we've only talked about it in a very, very general sense. We'll say.
Why do what?
Why do what?
Action wants to know why do.
What do? Why do, where do?
That's a very vague question.
It's true. Who does more pollinating, bees or moths? Because why not play this card? Moths.
Moths do.
By an order of magnitude. Actually, moths do.
Nobody talks about them?
No, I am on, everybody who's here knows I am on Team Moth because, moths, actually...
Moths are better than people?
Well, there's that. Besides the obvious, they pollinate way more things than butterflies or bees. However... they are not the most prevalent pollinators. That goes to beetles. Beetles and then flies.
Action wants to know, why do we pollinate? Why do pollinators pollinate?
That is accidental, actually, as Ethan said there. They pollinate because they get a reward from the plant. And it's a food source. Because pollen is a food source, but... The thing is, some of the pollen, when they visit different flowers, is enough to fertilize the different flowers. So even though a good portion of the pollen is eaten, it's, you know, there's still plenty that's enough to fertilize. So usually the plant makes way more pollen than it actually needs. Or you can be like an orchid or several other flowers which... actually have pollen sacs, basically. They're in like little capsules that get stuck on the bee's back when the bee crawls into the flower. And are very highly specific so that their pollen doesn't get eaten because they're crawling in there for the nectar, which is the reward. So it's an exchange. It's a type of symbiosis. So I should remind everybody that symbiosis is just an interaction. Just any two organisms interacting. There are different types of symbioses. So mutualism is where both benefit. So this would be a type of mutualism. Where the plant gets something out of it and the bee or the bug gets something out of it or the animal gets something out of it. Now, there are plants which cheat. Which means that they will look like another plant, and the bee will be like, hey, look, there's like, this place will have like nectar, right? And they will go in there and they're like, oh, there's no nectar here, and they'll get covered in pollen, and the plant's like, sucker. So that would be not a mutualism. You can have a commensalism, which is that one party benefits and the other party does not, but they're not actively harmed.
Onyx, my child, I cannot play this game and help
then-
DP on the stream if you're in my way.
Yep. And then you have what is called parasitism, which is where one benefits and the other one is harmed in some way. Yes.
Onyx decided that he was going to help us play.
Technically speaking, Ethan also says it only takes one pollen grain technically per stigma. Inside the pollen grain are 2 nuclei because most flowers go through double fertilization, which I think I've talked about on a previous stream when I talked about plant 6. And I got annoyed because the other day I got an email from YouTube saying that video got flagged.
Because you talked about science?
No, because it was deemed inappropriate. Because reproduction, even if it's plant reproduction, inappropriate.
Oh, YouTube.
Yes.
Ooze asks, do any species have a catnip reaction to pollen? Are there just critters out here getting buck wild on pollen?
Oh, yes. There are actually some types of plants which will... So, back to inappropriate content, everybody. Plant After Dark. There are some plants which produce pheromones that are similar to the mating hormone of certain insect species. And so what the male insects do will go crazy and try to mate with the flower. And when they mate with the flower, then they pick up the pollen. Because the flower smells like a lady.
Around.
No! I'm not kidding! I'm not kidding.
Was joking. But
no.
No.
Oh, but no. Nature's wild, y'all. Oh, no. Oh, no, for real. For real. Go ahead. The term is... I hate that I'm saying this word, but go ahead and look it up. The term is pseudopopulation. It is a real thing.
Makes total sense.
So, Ooze, I'm gonna add that to your Google history. Ah, Harold, we heard about you and that daffodil. Indeed. She was beautiful, okay? Actually, a lot of orchids are the ones that do this, if I remember correctly. But, yeah, she was beautiful, okay? Don't judge me.
I just really enjoy products that bees help bake.
Oh, yes.
Because beekeeping is a multi-million-dollar industry.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
Because it's not just about the honey, it's about the products.
Uh-huh.
Because if you think about it, you get beeswax, honey, and then, like, as this other thing says, a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, yes. And the
but
thing
this
is...
says, according to this FDA website, FDAwebsite.gov, the agricultural benefit of honeybees is estimated to be between 10 and 20 times the total value of honey and beeswax. In fact, bee pollination accounts for about $15 billion in added crop value. They're like flying dollar bills buzzing over U.S. crops.
It's true.
Well, but they're used in like so many products.
Yes, it's true. And the thing is, I'd seen like a rumor online for a while where they're like, oh, if we lose all the bees, then we'll have no food. That's not really true because only about, I think like 2% like of plant species are actually pollinated by bees, but, well, a low percentage. But the thing is, a lot of the fruit species that we all enjoy in the grocery are pollinated by bees. So it's not that we would be out of food, it's just that we would be out of certain ones.
Do you know what else is pollinated by bees that people drink a lot of?
Tell me.
Almond milk.
In truth. It's true.
Do you know what's really hard to pollinate?
Almonds.
Almonds. Goes through a lot of bees.
Yes.
It's very sad.
Yes. So the thing is that if you want to be a friendly sort of place, and I know a lot of people will like, I don't have a big garden, I don't have a big space. It doesn't take much. It really doesn't. You know.
I've seen beehives on, New York City skyscrapers, bus stops, etc. You don't need a lot of space. You just need a place for it to happen. Look, I didn't coin the term, Doc.
It's true. It's true.
I'm glad that there are alternatives for people who have a dairy and or a lactose intolerance.
Yes. It damn true. A lot of this
And
stuff
it's already
is
hard enough to keep a hive of bees through winter.
It's also true.
Considering all of your pests and diseases that can infect a hive and go down quickly, because hive beetles are not a good thing.
Nope, hive beetles are not a good thing, and also one of the major problems. And so another reason of what they call what is it? It's called sudden hive collapse.
Colony collapse.
Colony collapse, yeah. Is I've seen a big debate with entomologists. A lot of people wanted to blame modern agriculture, which because of the big sort of monoculture of places and overuse of pesticides, which is a part of it. But a major part of it is lawns.
Yep.
Is not having enough food. Because everyone has got to have this stupid, perfectly manicured turf grass that provides.
I love that we circle back.
Nothing. Yep, we have circled back. Is a big part of it. What's another?
Invasive species. Other invasive species.
Another invasive species is one. Also, a lot of entomologists think that many of the honeybee hives and things are very inbred.
Probably.
Because everybody gets the same, uses the same bees and practices with the same bees and things of that nature and don't have good genetic diversity. So, because of that, well...
We need a leek and a dandelion, DP.
Okay. I can go look for those. After I sell this stone. Oh, nope, I'm not going to sell this stone because we need that for the furnace.
Was this you're selling a stone?
I sold some stone earlier just because Robin's like, I will take your extra stone because we had a boat ton of it, but we need it now for furnacey things. But
and if you visit the wizard, you can unlock the dialogue in the community center, so you could actually read it.
Oh, yep. You're right. I forgot about this. So would one need to take a hive to another beekeeper to have a date night? That is a thing you can do. They can also capture certain drones and bring them in, but you got to be careful though, because some of the worker bees will find other.
If they're not up to snuff, they'll kill them.
Yes. Yes.
I found the dandelion and the horseradish in our chest.
Nice. Oh, do we want to get something for the nice lady?
Shadowdoon. What is she selling?
So she is selling, let's see. I can afford the coconut, I can afford the carp, I can afford a salmonberry, a cave carrot, a pufferfish, a tulip,
I think we wait.
Roll. Yeah. Goodbye, lady. So usually the best way is to get more genetic diversity is to get get different queens from different places, right? And establish new hive. It's locked, but you can hear someone inside. Wizard man. Oh yeah, it's not nighttime. Abigail. Abigail, you should do your homework.
You should. Homework is sometimes important.
Yeah, sometimes it's busy work, but sometimes important. It helps you study for the test. Oh, you found the world route. Oh, yay, bundle's complete. Hooray!
We got 30 spring seeds.
That's exciting.
It was very exciting.
Indeed. I like it. I will go here. Bees, pollinators, and also a deterrent for neighbors that want to talk. They don't know anything about bees.
People are so afraid.
Yeah, people are so afraid of bees, and it just makes no sense whatsoever. But
that's all. I understand some people. I think my question is: are people allergic? A lot of people are allergic to bees, and I'm putting this in a vague quotation because there are people who are allergic to bees, but I wonder if they're more allergic to wasps.
It's
than
more
bees.
likely. It's more likely wasps. It's more likely wasp because, as you said, a common misconception is that it's a bee. It's like, it's more, it's probably a wasp. It's
Probably a wasp.
Yeah, it's probably a wasp. Bees are bros.
Well, some of them, but
Some
mostly
of them. Most of them are girls.
they're girls.
Most of them are girls. Sterile girls.
Do you know you can tell the queen in a hive because she's like 25 to at least 50% bigger?
Yeah, she's so much bigger than everybody else.
And she doesn't necessarily have the stripes.
No. Ooze was saying the joke is more about her bros versus evil wasps. It's like, it's
well,
true.
yes, but Ooze, you should know we're serious about our bees.
We are serious about our bees. This is an educational stream, don't you know? Because remember, everyone, out of the two of us, one of us is competent and the other one is me.
I feel like one of us is competent and the other's a cat.
There's that, yeah. Which one? Who knows? Oh gosh. If you want to learn more about pollinators, besides there being lots and lots of books, as I mentioned earlier, Heather Holm is Pollinators of Native Plants. And she has a website as well. And it Twitters. And if you go to In Defense of Plants, the podcast has done a bunch of episodes. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes right here.
Also, you can always probably just like email a local beekeeper.
That too.
You have questions about some stuff.
If you want to do about bees, and if you just want to know about like plants and like pollinators in general, like lots of insects and birds and things like that. Because birds are also pollinators. As well
because
as,
they pick stuff up from one place and fly it to another.
Yes. Well, and also birds tend to be more seed dispersers than pollinators. Insects tend to be the major pollinators, second to wind and water, like the elements. But you also have, they act as seed dispersers. Mammals also act as seed dispersers quite often. But if you have like, so for In Defense of Plants, episode 279, Pollinator Plant of the Year program. It's a bunch of different stuff. 213 is Buzzing Bees and the Floral Microbiome.
Ooh.
133 is Pollinator Pathway. So Pollinator Pathways is a fascinating concept that I absolutely love, is that making little pots within cities
crow.
As a way to have a way, basically there's a term called urban desert.
Yes.
Where there's no way for an animal to get from one end of the city to the other because there's no place to roost, there's no food, there's no nothing. And so instead there are these projects called Pollinator Pathway. And so Pollinator Pathway is basically growing, even if it's stuff like in the median, you know, like on a highway or little tiny plots in abandoned like lots, things of that nature, to make it so that there's at least a little tiny green space that runs through the entire city. And that's called a Pollinator Pathway.
DP, would you like me to plant so you can go mine?
Sure.
And I'm gonna cut down these trees so we can get some strawberry plants.
Okay. What's the other? I had a thought about something and then I forgot.
Sorry. Well, pollinator pathways.
Pollinator pathways. Oh, we should make a scarecrow.
Yes, I was also on my things to do this while I was chopping on trees.
Okay. So pollinator pathways. So it's a way to basically having a connection of enough plants, native plants and other things, where it's like that these insects can basically have someplace to go so they can cross these vast distances of across the city. So
one of my favorite subreddits, DP, is the bee subreddit.
Ooh, nice.
It's mostly just pictures of bees.
Well, sure.
But it just brings me joy.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you see pictures of bees, there's pictures of flowers.
Right. Do we have any more questions?
Just, do we have questions? Nicholas, do you have a question about pollinators?
Would you say I have a question about pollinators?
What is what? Oh.
Sorry, we were
You
talking.
started to ask me a question. My brother, shut up. What is the rate of pollinization? My brother wants to know.
Depends.
It depends.
What
The
are we
answer is
talking
it
about?
depends.
What
I don't know,
plant
I
are we
just asked
talking
him because he came into my space.
Depends.
I was
on,
like, I'm live on stream. You're gonna be here. You're gonna get roped in.
it depends on what plant you're talking about. You know, if it's an annual plant versus a perennial plant versus how often they flower. Some flowers flower once, and once they're pollinated, then they die. Other ones flower a whole bunch. They make a whole bunch of nectar. Flower plants tend to be very promiscuous. So,
Ooh.
yeah, so the thing is, it's like, you have some plants which will have, like one set of, like, eggs and ovaries at the bottom of the stigma, and then you have others that have a whole bunch, right? So you can be pollinated by multiple partners, I guess? So,
Makes sense.
seeds within the same seed pod can have multiple different fathers. Although a lot of plants are hermaphroditic, so they're both mom and dad. You can also have self-pollination, which occurs, although that is not as good of a evolutionary strategy.
Hey, you reached level 5.
I have reached level 5. I did it.
I'm so proud.
I did it. Now this slime is trying to hurt me. No, go away. So. You'd have those sorts of things.
The answer is when people come into your space and you're doing an activity,
Yep.
they get roped in.
You get roped in. It's true. It's true. And so, I will say, like, if you're wind pollinated, for example, the rate can be kind of slow depending on how fast how much the wind is, happening. Versus it's like you could be relatively fast if you are a generalist. So certain plants have formed different mutualisms, since we said that's a type of symbiosis with particular species of insect. And then there are other plants that are like, I don't care. I pollinate by whomever. It's fine. Whatever.
You found the way down.
I did. Please don't hurt me.
Nice.
Don't hurt me. Go away, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
You could just go down the ladder.
It's a thing of principle. I'm running. Oh no. I'm running now.
Oh, eat a parsnip.
Going to eat a parsnip. Whoop. No, I didn't know what to do that. Oh well, too bad. I ate the parsnip. Alright. I didn't mean to go up. I didn't want to go up. It's too late now.
Take the elevator back down. Just took a taco.
It's true.
The dog says it's dinner time,
Oh, is it?
which is good because she's eating.
This is also good. This is a good thing. Ding. Okay. Creepy mine sounds. Excited.
Trying to get money for strawberries.
Yes, we need these.
But that amethyst selling will do good.
I am glad. I am glad. I have helped. My name is DP.
Very helpful.
And I'm helping. Oh gosh. What else have we covered? So that's the thing. It's like there's so much variety.
It's true. And my brain hurts.
Yeah, depending on the plant, depending on, like, basically, like, every plant, can have a different kind of thing that it's got going on. Very fascinating. I learned of one set of plants that's up in, like, very, like, high mountainous region where it's very windy and nasty all the time. And they have, like, this special kind of what's called a calyx, which is like almost like a protective like armor almost around the
Okay.
flower to keep the flower protected. But then it's like, how do you pollinate though? Because no one can get to it because it's got this armor.
Maybe the bumblebee could get to it though.
Actually found out it's a lizard. It's a lizard that do it. Because what happens is that kind of special flower armor is bright red in color, which apparently is very interesting and attractive to this lizard. And it also apparently tastes good. So what the lizard do will eat it, right? And that will open up the flower. And when it does that, that they'll get that snoot all covered in pollen. So it's a very interesting adaptation. I thought was very fascinating.
Fish and fish.
But that was actually kind of a rarer case. I know there was like one of like a certain kind of flower they hadn't figured out because it only like opened at like night, but it was on the ground. And so then there's like a night blooming cactus, and there are other types of other night blooming flowers that generally are white. And the reason that they're white is because they will reflect moonlight better. And because they reflect moonlight better, they are attractive to moths.
And we're back to moths.
And we're back to moths. Because of course we are. You are correct. Back to moths.
Look, we have a brand. It's bees and moths, respectively.
It's true.
We always end up circling around.
And for me, it's moths and bees, respectively.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I guess I haven't seen...
joining.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to exit desktop.
Alrighty.
That way you can pause the game.
Yep, indeed. Alright. Thank you, folks. I am so glad that you came and joined us and that we were here. I will go ahead.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
DK.
absolutely. Thank you for joining me, and we could talk about bees and just nerd out for a while and stuff like that. So I will see you all next month. At the end of the month for our next stream. I have no idea what we're going to do next.
Well, if you have a suggestion, you should tweet DP at, what is it, like the Drunk Phytologist on Twitter?
Yep, at Drunk Phyto.
Drunk Phyto on Twitter, if you have an idea for next month.
It's true. I am hoping, so I am going to want to do one on, so this isn't usually my forte, but because it's in our minds and in our hearts right now, on the COVID vaccine. And vaccines in general, and what you need to know, and different things of that nature. And I'm hoping... What?
Don't you have a degree in this somehow?
I am a pathologist. I am. And I'm a molecular biologist. So I can tell you a lot about the biochemistry and how you make vaccines and all those sorts of things. But I am also going to try to have a medical professional with me as my guest star to talk about how it's rolling out treatments and what things you need to know. So... that's my hope for next month. No guarantees. As I said, I'm trying to put this together because all of the medical professionals I know, one of my friends' friends who finished her PhD and specialized in coronavirus research is working at a research hospital in Philadelphia on different treatments, and unfortunately, she's slammed right now, as you might imagine.
I can imagine.
So, unfortunately, Dr. Elaine cannot join me, but I am hoping that Dr. Amanda Danley will be able to. So, cross your fingers. Otherwise, that might be the next month. But otherwise, if you have some topics and things that you want to talk about, please tweet at me. But thank you, everybody. Have a great night.